Today, we are talking about one of the most famous people in history, Napoleon Bonaparte. Some people call him a hero, while others call him dangerous. Some admire him for his skills, while others blame him for the wars and deaths. So the big question is, who was Napoleon really? Let's start from the beginning. Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769 on a small island called Corsica. If you look at a map, Corsica is located between France and Italy. Today it belongs to France, but back then, it was a very different story. Corsica was ruled by a country called the Republic of Genoa, which does not exist anymore. The people of Corsica were unhappy under Genoan rule. They wanted freedom and dreamed of ruling themselves. A brave man named Pasquale Paoli became the leader of the Corsican freedom movement. Young Napoleon admired him greatly. Paoli was his childhood hero, someone he looked up to for courage and leadership. But soon, things changed drastically. The Republic of Genoa was weak and poor, and it could not manage Corsica anymore. In 1768, Genoa made a shocking move. It sold Corsica to France. Yes, they literally sold their territory. The people of Corsica were angry but powerless. France had a strong army, and resisting it was almost impossible. In 1769, the French army fought the Corsican forces at the Battle of Ponte Novo. France won, and Corsica officially became part of France. Just a few months later, Napoleon Bonaparte was born. Napoleon's father, Carlo Bonaparte, was a lawyer. At first, he supported the Corsican freedom fighters. But after France's victory, Carlo switched sides and became a supporter of the French rulers. This change helped his career a lot, but it disappointed Napoleon deeply. Carlo used his new connections to gain power and money. He even became a noble and later represented Corsica in the court of the French king, Louis XVI. Napoleon considered his father weak and a traitor for abandoning Corsican freedom. Despite this, Carlo's connections helped Napoleon in one important way. Napoleon received a scholarship to study in a French military school. He left Corsica at a very young age and moved to France to pursue education and military training. Life at school was not easy for young Napoleon. Most students were rich French kids. Napoleon spoke French with a strong Corsican accent, and the other kids often mocked him. He felt lonely and did not socialize much. He even thought of the French as colonizers, not friends. Because of this isolation, Napoleon turned to books for comfort. He loved reading about history, geography, and mathematics. He also read the writings of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who wrote about freedom and praised the bravery of the Corsicans. This inspired young Napoleon and strengthened his love for his homeland. One of his favorite books was Plutarch's Parallel Lives, which described the lives of great leaders like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. Napoleon dreamed of becoming a great leader just like them. After finishing school, Napoleon joined a military academy in Paris, specializing in artillery. He was very good at math, which made him perfect for this role. He graduated as a second lieutenant in the French army. Even after joining the army, Napoleon often returned to Corsica. He continued to admire Paoli and dreamed of Corsican freedom. But in 1789, everything changed again. The French Revolution began. The king lost power, old rules were broken, and ideas like freedom, equality, and nationalism spread across France. Corsica also came under the new French government, and Paoli returned from exile after 20 years. The people welcomed him like a hero, and Napoleon supported him too. However, Paoli did not trust Napoleon's family because of their previous loyalty to France. He called them traitors. In 1793, Paoli announced that Napoleon's family could no longer live in Corsica. Napoleon and his family were forced to leave their homeland forever. They moved to France, and this moment changed Napoleon's life completely. Corsica was gone, and his childhood dream was shattered. From this point on, Napoleon would fight not for Corsica, but for power and ambition. After leaving Corsica, Napoleon started his career in the French army. France was in chaos at that time because of the French Revolution. Different groups were fighting for power, and the country was unstable. People were divided, and the government constantly changed. It was a dangerous time for young officers like Napoleon, but he saw this as an opportunity to rise. In 1793, a major event happened at Toulon, a French naval base. The city had been taken over by rebels, and the British forces supported them. Napoleon was sent to command the artillery. Even though he was young, he came up with a clever plan. He suggested capturing a key fort, taking control of a high hill for artillery advantage, and then attacking the British ships. Napoleon fought bravely and even got hurt in the process, but his strategy worked. After 3 months of tough battles, the French army won, and Napoleon became famous. The general in charge praised him highly, calling him brilliant and brave. By age 24, Napoleon was promoted to brigadier general, one of the youngest in French history. Around the same time, France was still going through a civil war, and the revolutionary leader Maximilien Robespierre was implementing reforms. These included giving men the right to vote, allowing women to divorce, access education, and even work opportunities. Slavery was abolished in France and its colonies during this time. But Robespierre's period also had dark sides, especially the Reign of Terror, where thousands were executed just for suspicion. Napoleon supported the Jacobins and even impressed Robespierre's family with his writings. However, in 1794, a coup overthrew the Jacobins, and Robespierre was executed. Since Napoleon had supported Robespierre, he was imprisoned for a few weeks. Fortunately, he defended himself well and was released. This experience taught him the importance of political strategy and survival. Later in 1795, another uprising threatened Paris. Napoleon was called to handle it, even though his army was outnumbered 6-1. Using smart tactics, limited cannons, and a determined infantry, he crushed the rebellion in just 2 hours. This success made him a national hero, and he officially became a general at only 27. Soon after, he took command of the Army of Italy, which was the French force stationed in northern Italy. The troops were poorly trained, unmotivated, and had little supplies. Napoleon motivated them by giving inspiring speeches, stressing discipline, and forbidding looting. Unlike many leaders, Napoleon did not allow his army to pillage towns. Napoleon also loved art and culture. He wanted to bring back treasures from his conquests to Paris. He even dreamed of creating a universal museum, later renaming the Louvre Museum after himself. In Italy, he led the French forces to victory in battles like the Battle of Arcole, using clever strategies, rapid troop movement, and surprise attacks. In 1798, Napoleon proposed a bold plan. Instead of attacking Britain directly, he would move to the Mediterranean to cut off Britain's trade routes to India. He captured Malta first, and then landed in Egypt, aiming to support Tipu Sultan against the British. Alongside 40,000 soldiers, Napoleon brought over 160 scientists, scholars, and artists to study and document Egypt's history, culture, and nature. Battles like the Battle of Alexandria and the Battle of the Pyramids followed. Napoleon drew inspiration from great leaders like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, seeking fame and glory. Although Napoleon's Egyptian campaign had military setbacks, the British Navy destroyed French ships at the Battle of the Nile, and Egypt was eventually lost. The expedition had lasting contributions. Scientists discovered the Rosetta Stone, studied Egyptian plants, architecture, and culture, and brought valuable knowledge back to France. Napoleon, despite losing the campaign, returned to France welcomed as a hero. This was possible because of heavy propaganda. Newspapers, paintings, songs, and poems all glorified him. Some newspapers were even controlled by Napoleon himself, and he shaped public opinion to see him as a genius and hero. His popularity kept growing. Napoleon's speeches, childhood stories, and achievements, both real and exaggerated, were widely circulated. Even his love story with Josephine was romanticized in media, showing him as a passionate, ambitious man. Paintings like his Mediterranean campaign in Jaffa and the Battle of Marengo were used as propaganda, portraying him as a hero and savior, even though reality was often different. By the end of this period, Napoleon was ready for his next big step, seizing control of France. He had become a brilliant military strategist, a master of public image, and a rising star in a turbulent time. By 1799, Napoleon had become one of the most powerful men in France. The country was still unstable, with corruption, chaos, and weak governments. Seeing the opportunity, Napoleon orchestrated a coup in November 1799. This allowed him to take control of France and establish the consulate government, with himself as the first consul. Two other consuls were appointed to assist him, but Napoleon clearly held the real power. A new constitution was introduced, and most French citizens accepted it because Napoleon's image as a hero and savior had been carefully promoted through propaganda. To gain public approval, Napoleon held a referendum, asking the people if they supported the new government. The results were reported as overwhelmingly positive, showing near-unanimous support. In reality, the voting process was manipulated, but it helped Napoleon solidify his power. 2 years later, another referendum made him consul for life, and by 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of France. Unlike other monarchs, he did not wait for the Pope to place the crown on his head. This act symbolized his ambition and desire for ultimate control. Napoleon openly admitted that he loved power, famously saying, "Power is my mistress. I have worked too hard at her conquest to allow anyone to take her away from me." Over the next decade, Napoleon led a series of wars across Europe. He signed temporary peace treaties, but war was inevitable because European countries feared France's growing influence. Napoleon also faced coalitions of monarchies determined to stop him. His military campaigns were legendary. He modernized the French army, introduced strict discipline, and inspired his soldiers through speeches and personal example. His victories in battles like Austerlitz, Jena, and Wagram showcased his strategic genius and made him a legend in Europe. Despite his hunger for power, Napoleon also implemented important reforms in France. The Napoleonic Code of 1804 became a landmark legal system, ensuring equality for men under the law and ending feudal privileges. He established a secular government, balancing power with the church, and allowed religious freedom while keeping control over clergy appointments. Napoleon also created the Bank of France, stabilized currency, improved the tax system, and reformed education by building schools and universities with trained teachers. He even modernized Paris's water supply and markets, ensuring citizens had better living conditions. Napoleon's rule had contradictions. While he spread revolutionary ideas like equality and secularism, he also restricted freedom of expression, exiled dissenters, and reinstated slavery in French colonies. His views on women were regressive, reversing many rights they had gained during the French Revolution. He appointed his brothers as rulers in conquered territories instead of promoting democracy. In 1812, Napoleon launched an invasion of Russia after they violated his economic blockade. The Russian army retreated, burning resources along the way. Napoleon's troops reached Moscow, only to find it empty. After waiting for a month without a surrender, his army was forced to retreat, suffering massive losses. The following year, a coalition of European nations defeated him at the Battle of Leipzig, leading to his first exile on the island of Elba in 1814. Even after exile, Napoleon made a dramatic comeback in 1815, returning to France with public support. For 100 days, he regained control, but his final defeat came at the Battle of Waterloo against British and Allied forces. After this, he was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, where he spent the last 6 years of his life, dying in 1821. Napoleon's story is a mix of brilliance, ambition, and controversy. He was a military genius, a visionary reformer, and a master of propaganda. Yet, his hunger for power led to wars, destruction, and millions of deaths. Despite these contradictions, his reforms in law, education, and administration left a lasting impact on France and Europe. Napoleon remains one of history's most fascinating figures, showing how ambition, intelligence, and determination can shape the world, for better or worse.